Bright daylight shimmered across the quiet suburban street as I stepped out of my front door, the December sun shining hard enough to make the air feel crisp but comfortable. I wore my usual black and red checkered flannel shirt, jeans, and my old boots, as I carried a long extension cord toward the tree that sat just a few feet inside my front yard. It wasn't enormous, maybe 8 feet tall, but it was full, healthy, and perfectly shaped for what I wanted, a simple outdoor Christmas tree. Every year I kept holiday lights modest inside the house, but this time I wanted something cheerful outside too. Just soft white lights, nothing crazy. And I made sure it was completely up to code. The lights were low wattage, energy efficient, safe for outdoor weather, rated by the manufacturer and installed by a licensed electrician, my friend Mike, a 55-year-old guy who lived 2 streets over and had been doing electrical work since before I was born. He checked every outlet, inspected the cord, and tested the surge protector in full sunlight. Everything was perfect. Zero hazards, zero violations, zero problems. At least until the man who created problems for a living stepped outside his house across the street. I didn't even have to turn around to know it was him. His voice was unmistakable, deep, loud, explosive, and always echoing off the pavement like he believed the whole neighborhood existed only to hear him. "What is that?" Carl Hemsworth bellowed, and the sound ricocheted across the sunlit lawns. I took a slow breath before turning around. There he stood, 50 years old, at least 280 pounds, stuffed into a bright pink dress shirt so tight it stretched across his stomach like a balloon ready to burst. His black dress pants clung to his legs awkwardly, and he already sweated through the shirt despite the chilly morning. His face was flushed, a deep, angry red even before he finished stomping his way across the street. "What is that thing doing in your yard?" he yelled again. That THAT tree?" I pointed calmly. "It's a Christmas tree, Carl." His face got redder. "Not that," he snapped. "That decorated thing, that structure, you mean the lights?" I asked. He stomped once, his heavy body shaking with the impact. "Yes, the lights, the decorations, the whole display. You can't just put that anywhere you want." His shouting drew attention. Male neighbors peeked from garages or paused mid-task, all watching from a distance because everyone knew Carl's temper better than they knew the weather forecast. I kept my tone steady. "Carl, it's not a display. It's just one tree with lights, and it's allowed." "No, it is not," he shouted, wiping sweat off his forehead even though the sun wasn't hot enough to justify it. "Our holiday decor rules require HOA approval for any outdoor decor." "No," I said, "they require approval for structures or inflatables or displays over 6 feet. It doesn't apply to a natural tree." Carl's face twisted. "Wrong, totally wrong. I know the rules. I wrote half of them." "Exactly the problem," I muttered. He heard it. He definitely heard it. His jaw dropped like he'd been slapped. "Are you mocking my authority?" he screamed. "Are you mocking me?" "No," I said. "I just think you're exaggerating." He pointed at the tree dramatically. "That thing is a safety hazard, a fire risk, a neighborhood distraction. You could cause a traffic accident." I looked around at the calm, empty street. There are no cars driving. "There could be," he barked, "any moment." Mike, the electrician, walked out from behind my garage wiping his hands on a rag. "Everything is wired safely," he said. "All outdoor rated, no overload, no risk." Carl snapped at him instantly. "Who are you?" "Electrician. You're not approved by the HOA. "I don't need to be," Mike said. "State license is enough." Carl looked like he'd swallowed a lemon whole. He puffed out his chest, sweat dripping under the bright sun. "I am issuing a violation," he roared. "You hear me? A full violation." "For what?" I asked. "Unauthorized tree lighting," he yelled. "Unapproved visual decoration, holiday and ON compliance." I blinked. "That's not a real rule." "It is now," Carl screamed, stomping back toward his house. He nearly tripped on the curb but kept going like a pink-shirted freight train fueled entirely by rage and insecurity. 10 minutes later, a world record response time even for him, he returned with a clipboard and a stack of violation slips. His shirt was already drenched with sweat, his face shining in the bright sun. "Here," he shouted, slapping a notice into my hand. "Your first fine." I read the paper. He had scribbled "Holiday and ON compliance, $200, in handwriting so messy it looked like a toddler's first attempt at cursive. "Carl," I said, "you can't invent rules." "I can if they are for the benefit of the community," he yelled. "And this tree is an assault on neighborhood uniformity." I tried not to laugh. "Carl, the HOA literally has a Christmas light budget. You decorate the clubhouse every year." He puffed even bigger. "That is different. That is official HOA decor, traditional, approved BYME. "Yeah," I said, "and who pays for it?" "The HOA, he snapped. I looked him straight in the eyes. "No, Carl, it's paid by a private donor." He froze for half a second, just enough for me to see confusion hit his eyes like a blink of lightning. "A donor?" he said. "What donor, exactly?" I said. "You never asked." He blinked again, confusion turning into suspicion. "Who is the donor?" he demanded. I shrugged. "Maybe you should check your records." That pushed him over the edge. I will, he shouted. And when I find out who they are, they're getting FINED too. He stormed away again, sweating so hard he left actual droplets on the sidewalk as the sun caught them like tiny beads of glass. Meanwhile, neighbors gathered closer, quiet murmurs, knowing looks, small smirks. They all knew what I knew. They all knew the secret Carl had never bothered to learn. They all knew why I wasn't nervous. Because Carl had no idea that every year he bragged about the HOA holiday lighting, every year he took credit for the glowing clubhouse decorations, every year he held speeches under the sparkling lights, he was standing under something he never paid for. Something the HOA didn't fund, something he didn't control, something I funded, and soon, very soon, he was going to find out. By the next morning, sunlight blasted across the neighborhood so brightly it looked like the entire street had been polished overnight. I stepped out onto my porch in my usual black and red checkered flannel shirt, stretching my neck as I scanned the street. My outdoor Christmas tree stood exactly as it had the day before, simple, clean, and glowing, gently even in daylight from the sun reflecting off its silver ornaments. But something else glowed too, something far less pleasant. A neon orange HOA violation notice was taped to my mailbox. And not delicately either, judging by the crooked angle and ripped corner, Carl must have slapped it on with enough force to try knocking the mailbox down. I sighed, walked over, and peeled it off. Second notice, $300 fine, holiday display escalation. Escalation. He'd literally written the word escalation like this was a military confrontation. As if on cue, a door slammed across the street. Then came the stomping, heavy stomping, loud stomping. Aggressive stomping that shook the quiet morning air long before the man himself appeared. Carl emerged red-faced and sweating harder than usual for an early December morning. His bright pink dress shirt was already plastered to his large frame, stretched tight across his massive belly and stained under the armpits. Black dress pants clung awkwardly against his thighs as he waddled toward me, waving a clipboard overhead. "You think you can ignore violations?" he yelled. "Not an MY community." I took a sip of coffee. "Carl, it's not your community, you're just the HOA president." He jabbed his clipboard at me. "I am the law here." "No," I said, "you're a guy in a pink shirt yelling at a tree. A tree that breaks the rules." He screamed, flecks of spit flying under the blinding sunlight. "And when you break the rules, you get FINED." I pointed to the notice. "You invented this rule yesterday." "Yes," he yelled, "because you broke it." "That's not how rules work, Carl." His face turned an even deeper shade of red, like a tomato about to burst. "Don't you tell me how rules work. I wrote the holiday code." "There is no holiday code," I said. "There's a single paragraph about inflatables over 6 feet. His left eye twitched violently. "Well, that paragraph covers trees too. Natural trees don't count." "Yes, they do." "Then why don't you find the big oak on Harold's lawn?" Because that one have offensive lights," he yelled, reaching the peak of his morning rage. "Offensive?" I repeated. "They're warm white LEDs. Too festive," he bellowed. "You're making our community look like an amusement park." I scanned the quiet, sunlit street. No decorations anywhere. No noise, no traffic. Just a few male neighbors watching discreetly from driveways, pretending to check tire pressure or rake leaves. Carl kept shaking with anger. His sweat dripped off his chin, making tiny dark circles in the sunlight on the concrete. "And another thing," he added suddenly, pointing at my tree with both hands like a referee calling a foul. "You are using unapproved electricity." I blinked. "What does that even mean?" "Electricity approved by the association." I stared blankly. "Electricity approved? Carl, electricity doesn't get approved. It comes from the power grid." "Exactly," he screamed, "and you're using too much of it. It's a string of lights, it uses less power than your doorbell." Carl gasped dramatically like I'd insulted his soul. "My doorbell is HOA approved." I rubbed my forehead. "Carl, my tree is wired safely and uses barely any electricity." "I bet he yelled. "I bet you're draining the grid." A neighbor coughed loudly behind him to hide laughter. Another muttered, "Drain the grid." "It's 15 bulbs." But Carl kept going. "And worse," he shouted, "you are competing with the official HOA holiday display." I raised an eyebrow. "You mean the one at the clubhouse?" His eyes narrowed. "Yes. And the rules clearly state there can be no secondary competing displays within the same community." "What rules?" I asked. "The rules I created. Yesterday?" "Yes." He pointed at my tree again, shaking with fury. "This tree diminishes the HOA's annual light ceremony." The neighbors leaned in. Everyone knew where this was heading except him. "Carl," I said, "how does my tree reduce your ceremony?" He puffed up, sweat glistening under the sun. "Because the HOA display must be the center of holiday attention." "Says who?" "Says me," he screamed. "And the donor who funds our lights would agree with me too." Ah, there it was, the opening. I kept my expression neutral. "You sure about that?" "Yes," he barked. "The donor wants the HOA display to be the main event, their money, their rules." He puffed even more. And that donor supports MY Vision. I smiled slowly. Does he? Carl froze. What does that mean? Just thinking aloud, I said, his face twisted with suspicion. You know something? He barked, waddling closer until his giant stomach nearly touched me. You know who the donor is, maybe. His eyes widened. Tell me why, I asked. Because, he shouted, if I find out they support you, I'll revoke their privileges. Privileges? I repeated. Yes, he snapped. Being our sponsor is a privilege. If they don't side with me, I'll find them too. I almost laughed. He had no idea. Every neighbor watching quietly behind him did. Tell me something, Carl, I said. Have you ever actually read the donor forms? His face contorted. I don't need to read them. I'm the president. You don't know who pays for the HOA lights, I said, and you've never bothered to check. Are you saying you know? He demanded again, leaning in so close I could smell the sweat radiating off him in the cold morning air. Are you saying you know the donor and won't tell me? Maybe, I answered calmly. Or is it you? He screamed suddenly, throwing his arms into the air like a malfunctioning inflatable. The neighbors froze, silence stretched. I simply said maybe. Carl's face turned purple, not red, not pink, full grape-colored fury. He staggered back, clutching his clipboard like it was a life preserver. I will have to investigate this, he shouted. You can't. He spun around and stormed away, stomping across the street so hard his shoes slapped the pavement. Neighbors whispered, someone said, he's not ready for what's coming. And I knew they were right. Because while Carl marched back to his house, sweating and furious, ready to file his 15th violation of the morning, he still didn't know the truth. He didn't know the donor was the very man he was trying to find. And soon, very soon, he would find out in the most painful public way possible. By the next bright morning, sunlight blasted off every surface in the neighborhood like someone had polished the whole block with glass cleaner. I stepped outside in my black and red checkered flannel shirt, planning to drink my coffee in peace. But of course, peace wasn't something the HOA president allowed. Not when he had evidence to compile, as he dramatically screamed yesterday. Before I even reached my porch steps, I heard the familiar slam of a door across the street. Then came the stomping. Louder than usual, angrier than usual, faster too, like an out-of-shape rhinoceros trying to sprint. And then came the yelling. I have discovered a scandal. Carl Hemsworth bellowed at full volume, storming across the street so aggressively his massive stomach bounced like a pink wrecking ball under his bright dress shirt. His shirt today was an even louder shade of pink, stretched tight across his chest, and already soaked in sweat despite the cold morning air. Black dress pants rode up awkwardly, wrinkled and clinging to his thighs as he waddled straight toward me with a thick binder under one arm. A scandal of epic proportions. He screamed again, jowls shaking under the sunlight. I nodded slowly. Good morning to you too, Carl. Do not greet me like a normal person, he roared. Not when this conspiracy is unfolding. What conspiracy? I asked. The Christmas display funds. He shouted triumphantly, slamming the binder onto my porch railing so hard the whole thing rattled. I have been investigating all night. I looked at the binder. It was 3 inches thick but only had about 15 pages inside. The rest was blank filler paper. Investigating what? I asked. Carl leaned in dramatically, sweating so much droplets fell onto the binder. The donor, he whispered loudly. The mysterious donor. You mean the person who pays for the HOA holiday lights? Yes. He screamed, making a kid across the street jump. The one who pays for the clubhouse displays, the one who funds our annual tree lighting ceremony. The donor who's been paying for it for years, I asked. He narrowed his eyes. You admit you know them? I never denied it. And you did not tell me, he shrieked, pointing at me accusingly. You hid information from the HOA president. I shrugged. I wasn't asked. His entire body stiffened. You should have told me anyway. Why? I asked. Because, he said, puffing his chest, I need to ensure the donoress values align with HOA values. Do you? Yes, he shouted. If they're supporting your illegal Christmas tree, they are a danger to community uniformity. Behind him, 2 male neighbors spit coffee from laughter but quickly hid their faces. Carl whipped around. You too, stop laughing. This is a serious investigation. They both nodded, failing miserably at suppressing smiles. Carl turned back to me, sweat dripping from his forehead like leaky faucets. You are involved, he growled. But I will uncover the truth. How? I asked. He yanked open the binder and held up a page of scribbles that looked like a child's treasure map. With this, what is that supposed to be? An expense analysis, he declared dramatically. I have been calculating all night. I leaned closer. The page said HOA lights equals expensive. Donor equals suspicious. Tree guy equals possibly evil. Tree guy? I asked. THATSU, he yelled. And I will find proof. He dramatically flipped the page. It was blank. He flipped another, blank and another, blank. He stopped halfway through the binder, panting heavily from the effort. My notes are in my mind, he said proudly. I don't need to write everything down. Clearly, I said. Carl ignored that, and now, he continued, I have discovered an inconsistency in the HOA ledger. Really? I asked. Yes, he yelled triumphantly. A suspicious payment 3 years ago. Suspicious how? Because I don't remember approving it. I folded my arms. You mean the donation payment, the one you signed? Carl blinked. His face somehow grew redder. I signed it? Yes, I said. Every year the donor adds funds. And every year you sign the approval papers. No, he shouted. I do not approve donations without knowing who they are from. Carl, I said, you have literally never asked. He blinked again, hard, twice. Then he leaned in so close I could feel the heat radiating from his sweat-soaked shirt. Tell me who the donor is. Why? I asked. Because, he roared, if they support your Christmas tree, I will revoke their sponsor privileges. You don't have the authority to revoke donations. Yes, I do, he yelled. I am the president. Suspended president, a calm voice said behind him. Carl spun around with a startled squeak. 3 male HOA board members stood on the sidewalk, Greg, Leonard, and Samuel, all carrying clipboards, all here for the increasingly ridiculous drama. Samuel cleared his throat. Carl, we received a complaint this morning. Carl puffed his chest. Good, I filed 15 of them. No, Samuel said, not from you. Carl froze. Leonard stepped forward. We received a complaint that you have been creating new HOA rules without board approval. I can do that, Carl shouted. I have executive power. Not while you're suspended, Greg said calmly. Carl's jaw dropped. His stomach wobbled as he pointed at the board, outraged. Suspended? That was yesterday. Today I'm back. That's not how suspensions work, Leonard said. Carl let out a primal scream of frustration. Then he pointed at my Christmas tree with a trembling hand. This is why our community is falling apart. A Christmas tree. Greg asked. Yes, Carl roared. A dangerous, destructive, electricity-thieving, community-destroying tree. A neighbor coughed loudly to hide laughter. Another muttered, electricity-thieving tree. Gonna steal the whole grid. Carl spun around at them. Stop mocking me, but the board ignored him. Samuel turned to me. Jason, is your tree installation up to code? Fully, I said. Licensed electrician and everything. Mike lifted his hand from across the driveway. Confirmed. The board nodded, then Samuel said, in that case there's no violation here. Carl's scream echoed through the entire sunny block. Yes, there is, he hollered. Because the donor would agree with me. You keep mentioning the donor, Greg said. Do you even know who it is? Carl puffed out his chest and said proudly, no, but I will find out, and when I do, they're finished. Every man present looked at each other. I took a step forward. Want to know? Carl whipped toward me. Yes, he screamed, tell me. I smiled. Okay. Neighbors leaned in, the board leaned in. Carl leaned in so far his stomach nearly hit my porch railing. And in the bright December sunlight before everyone, I said, I'm the donor. Carl's entire face froze. His mouth dropped open. Sweat rolled down his temples. His pupils shook. His hands trembled. Then very softly, like he couldn't process English, he whispered, you what? I fund the HOA Christmas lights, I repeated. Every year. The neighborhood exploded in whispered reactions. Carl staggered back like he'd been hit by a truck. Why you can't be, he stammered. I approve you. Yes, I said, you did every year with your signature. His eyes widened in terror, and then he screamed loud, long. Pure frustration, because everything he thought he controlled, everything he bragged about, everything he find me over, was paid for by me. Carl stood frozen on my walkway, sweating so hard that the morning sunlight reflected off his face like he'd been dipped in oil. His bright pink dress shirt clung to him like a wet tarp, dark patches spreading across his chest and stomach as he tried to process what I had just said. The entire neighborhood was silent. Men on porches, men at their mailboxes, men walking dogs, every one of them staring at the HOA tyrant as his world collapsed in broad, blinding daylight. Why you can't be the donor, he finally sputtered. I never would have approved that, I shrugged. You did approve it, Carl. Every year you sign the donation acceptance form without reading it. He jabbed his shaking finger at me like it could rewind reality. No, THATS impossible. You did this to embarrass me. Greg, one of the board members, stepped forward with his clipboard. Carl, he said, the donor paperwork is public. The signature pages were reviewed last night. They all show your initials. The color drained from Carl's face so dramatically he went from beet red to pale pink in seconds. His mouth opened, closed, opened again like a gasping fish struggling to stay alive. And then no, you're misinterpreting something, he shouted. THOSEFORMS, they're supposed to be 4 real donors. Leonard lifted his own clipboard. Jason is the real donor. Carl's jaw quivered, sweat dripped from his chin, falling onto the porch railing as he backed up a step, then another. You can't be the one paying for our holiday lights. Why? I asked calmly. Because, Carl stammered, because then you'd have authority. No, I said, donating doesn't give authority, it gives goodwill. Exactly, he shrieked. and I can't let you have that. He paced in angry circles on the sidewalk, every stomp shaking his enormous frame. The morning sun made his sweat glisten like he'd been sprayed with a garden hose. This is unacceptable, he bellowed. I am the holiday authority. Not you, a neighbor named Ron stepped forward. Carl, the man literally pays for the lights you brag about every year. Carl spun so fast his stomach lagged half a second behind the rest of his body. I don't brag, he screamed. I provide a community service. You tell everyone you personally oversee the display, Ron said. Another neighbor, Mark, added, you told us at last year's tree lighting that you negotiated a special wholesaler discount for the lights. Carl whipped his head toward Mark. I made a deal, Greg shook his head. Carl, the HOA bought the lights with Jason's donation, there was no negotiation. Carl's entire face twisted into a shape that didn't even look human anymore, more like someone trying to swallow their own rage before it exploded out of their ears. You can't just donate without asking my permission. He yelled, articulating every word like he was on the verge of snapping in half. I can control donations. No, Samuel said firmly, you can't. Carl stomped toward him. I can control anything I want, I am the president. Not anymore, Samuel reminded him, suspended. Temporarily, Carl roared, voice cracking, and now I must fix this mess. What mess? I asked. Carl pointed both hands at my Christmas tree. The one you caused by being the donor. A neighbor laughed out loud. Carl snapped toward him. Stop laughing, this is a serious breach of holiday protocol. Holiday protocol, I repeated. Yes, he screamed. There are rules about who can decorate what and how much attention they can get. I blinked. Carl, there's no rule about attention. There needs to be, he said, scribbling aggressively on his clipboard until the paper tore. If you pay for the HOA lights, you cannot have personal lights that draw attention away from HOA property. Greg rubbed his temple. Carl, you just made that up. No, I didn't, Carl shot back. It's an unspoken rule. Then how do you enforce it? I asked. With fines, he yelled triumphantly. Heavy fines, Samuel sighed. You're suspended, you can't issue fines. Carl froze, he didn't blink, didn't breathe. Then very slowly he said, I can verbally declare fines. No, Leonard said, that's not a thing. It is now, Carl shouted, flinging his clipboard into the air. It landed in a bush, he didn't notice. He stomped toward my Christmas tree, waving his arms like he was banishing demons. This tree is officially banned from existence, banned from the community, banned forever. I walked toward him. Carl, you can't ban a tree. Yes, I can, he yelled, grabbing the extension cord. I'm unplugging this illegal Christmas. Touch that cord, I said evenly, and the board will file a real violation against you. He froze mid-yank, sweating so hard the cord slipped out of his wet fingers. You can't threaten me. It's not a threat, Greg said, it's a warning. Carl turned to him. Why are you taking his side? Because he hasn't broken any rules, Leonard said, and you've broken at least 4. Carl staggered back, breathing hard, his fingers trembled, his face turned red again, then purple. Carl's house sat quiet for almost an hour, too quiet. The kind of silence that meant only one thing, he wasn't calming down, he was planning. And when an HOA tyrant plans, it's never something rational. The December sun rose higher, flooding the entire neighborhood in bright gold. My outdoor Christmas tree sparkled gently in that sunlight, the ornaments reflecting tiny sunbeams across the lawn. Neighbors chatted quietly in driveways, every man waiting for whatever Carl would do next. It didn't take long. His front door blasted open so violently it smacked the wall behind it. And out he came, sweating, furious, red-faced, breathing like a bull ready to charge, wearing a fresh pink dress shirt that was already soaked through with sweat. Clutched in both hands was a stack of papers so thick it looked like a short novel. He stormed down his walkway, stomping so hard the pavement practically flinched. Attention, he bellowed at the top of his lungs. Attention all homeowners, emergency holiday meeting right now. I set my coffee down. Oh boy, Ron muttered beside me, he's going full meltdown mode. Carl stomped into the middle of the street, chest heaving. This meeting is mandatory, he yelled. Mandatory and immediate. Samuel, Leonard, and Greg, our HOA board members, walked toward him calmly, clipboards in hand. Carl, Samuel said, you're suspended, you can't call a meeting. I can call any meeting I want, he roared. I am the holiday authority, Leonard sighed. There's no such thing as holiday authority. There is now, Carl shrieked. He held up his stack of papers dramatically. I have written the new holiday law. A full, complete 37-page HOA holiday code. 37 pages. The man had spent 1 hour writing 37 pages of nonsense. This code, he shouted, will ban all private lights, ban all outdoor trees. Ban all competing decorations. Carl, I said, I'm not competing. You are destroying the community brand. He yelled, sweat flying from his face under the blinding sun. And this document will restore order. Greg stepped forward. Carl, that code isn't valid. It wasn't voted on. IT need a vote, Carl screamed. I wrote IT, that's enough. No, Samuel said calmly, it's not. Carl's entire body shook with rage. If you will not accept my authority, he said, voice trembling, then I will do what must be done. He waddled toward my Christmas tree like an enraged pink tank. Carl, I warned, don't touch the tree. I am removing this illegal display myself, he shouted, since no one else has the courage. He grabbed the extension cord. Neighbors gasped. Carl, Samuel barked, you are not authorized. I don't need authorization. He roared, yanking the cord, except it didn't come loose. Mike the electrician had anchored it well. Carl pulled harder, his whole body shaking, belly wobbling, face turning purple. Let go, cord. He yelled as if the cord itself were rebelling. He lost his balance. And then in the brightest, clearest, most poetic daylight imaginable, Carl fell flat on his back, arms flailing, papers exploding into the air like confetti. His 37-page holiday code rained down over the street, fluttering in the sunlight like deranged snowflakes. The entire neighborhood froze. And then Ron whispered, "Merry Christmas" to us. The board rushed over not to help Carl up but to pick up the papers. Greg grabbed the first sheet and read aloud, Rule 14, no homeowner shall possess lights brighter than HOA-approved sparkle level. Mark snorted. Leonard read another. Rule 22, no outdoor tree shall exist that draws emotional attention away from the HOA's clubhouse tree. A neighbor muttered, emotional attention? What does that even mean? Samuel picked up another. Rule 3, all donors must be pre-approved by the HOA president. He lifted his eyebrow. This alone violates state HOA law. Carl sat up slowly, face dripping sweat, shirt covered in leaves and dirt. Give Emmy those papers, he wheezed, reaching weakly. Samuel held them out of reach. Carl, these rules are illegal. No, Carl yelled, scrambling to his feet. You can't tell me they're illegal. We can, Greg said, and we are. Leonard pointed to the last page. Carl, you signed this, King Hemsworth. The block burst into laughter. Carl tried to snatch the papers, but Samuel stepped back. Carl, you are done, he said. This behavior, these unauthorized rules, the harassment, the fake fines, it's over. Carl's face twisted into panic. No, you can't remove me, Samuel nodded. The emergency board meeting was held at 8 a.m. this morning. Carl blinked rapidly. What meeting? The one you weren't invited to, Leonard said. The vote was unanimous. Unanimous? Carl choked. Yes, Samuel said firmly. As of this morning, you are officially removed as HOA president. Carl staggered backward. And, Greg added, holding up a letter, you are barred from holding any HOA office for 5 years. Carl's jaw dropped. What? Additionally, Samuel continued, you are being fined for tampering with property, issuing fraudulent violations, and creating unauthorized HOA documents. Carl gasped. You can't fine me. We can, Leonard said, because unlike your fake rules, our bylaws are real. Carl looked around desperately at the board, at the neighbors, at me, at the tree, and then he pointed at me one last time, finger trembling. This is all your fault. How? I asked. You